Wausau, Wisconsin, November 12, 2023. On a crisp but clear morning in Wausau, Wisconsin, Matthew woke up with his usual plan to go to work. His car was parked neatly outside the house, with a little dew still lingering on the windows. But when he stepped outside, he discovered a horrifying reality. The car door had been pried open, and his beloved backpack, containing crucial work documents, was gone. Without wasting time panicking, Matthew grabbed his phone, opened the Find My app, and quickly spotted a signal coming from the secret Apple AirTag he had carefully attached to his bag. A small flashing dot on the screen showed its location, a house at the end of the street, not too far from where he stood. A mixture of anger and nervous anticipation filled him as Matthew decided to call the police. "It's time for AirTag to prove its worth," he muttered, ready for a day full of surprises. In a quiet, tidy street in Wausau, Wisconsin, where even the sidewalk bricks seemed meticulously arranged, lived a man named Matthew. Matthew was not only proud of his integrity, but was also known for being so meticulous that it was almost intimidating. His coworkers often joked that he could spot a typo in a contract from 10 years ago. His silver sedan was always spotless, and his black backpack, his loyal companion, was like a mini treasure chest filled with work documents, notebooks, and a few books on time management. That morning, as Matthew stepped outside to take a deep breath of fresh air, preparing for a productive day, his joy quickly vanished when he realized his familiar backpack was missing from the back seat of his car. His eyes widened, and his heart raced, not because of the bag itself, but because inside it were essential materials for an upcoming meeting. "How could this happen in a place like Wausau?" he muttered, both worried and irritated. But in the midst of his panic, a spark of hope flickered in Matthew's mind. He remembered that inside the bag was an Apple AirTag, a gift from his sister, who often teased him about forgetting things. She really did think ahead. Matthew chuckled bitterly, trying to console himself. The AirTag, or as he had seen it marketed, the mini detective, was now his only hope. With shaking hands but determined resolve, Matthew opened the Find My app on his phone. The screen lit up with a blinking dot, confirming that the bag was located at a strange house just a few blocks away. "This can't be this easy," Matthew murmured, his mind racing with bizarre scenarios, from a stolen purse to a professional gang gloating over their success. However, with his usual serious nature, he decided not to act hastily and immediately called the police. "This is serious now," he whispered, stepping into a journey he never expected to embark on. With the AirTag signal guiding him, Matthew wandered through the quiet streets of Wausau. The dot on the screen led him to a dilapidated house at the end of the road, with a rusted iron fence and a lawn littered with random items, a wheel-less bicycle, a few broken chairs, and an old, tilting garage sale sign swaying in the wind. Matthew furrowed his brow as he looked at the scene. "This doesn't look like the kind of place someone would hide a bag full of important documents," he muttered, but still decided to give it one try before calling the police. Feeling a mix of anxiety and determination, Matthew walked up to the door and knocked 3 times. The sound echoed against the old wooden door, which had peeling paint. A few seconds later, the door creaked open, revealing Mario, a young man in his 20s, his hair messy as if he had just woken up, wearing a wrinkled band t-shirt and ripped jeans. Mario eyed Matthew up and down with a cautious look, as if assessing what this neatly dressed man wanted. "Hello," Matthew began, trying to keep his tone polite but unable to mask the seriousness in his voice. "I'm looking for a lost backpack. The tracking signal shows it's here." Mario squinted, his voice dripping with annoyance and indifference. "Backpack? I don't know what you're talking about. What's an AirTag?" Matthew raised an eyebrow, sensing dishonesty in Mario's tone. However, he kept his composure, scanning the surroundings carefully. At that moment, he caught a glimpse of something shiny behind Mario, a pink purse partially hidden behind the door. Mario immediately noticed Matthew's gaze and awkwardly shoved the purse behind his back. "So what's that?" Matthew asked, his voice steady, yet sharp, his politeness now replaced with a subtle edge. Mario forced a smile, awkwardly saying, "Oh, it's not mine. It belongs to my friend. They just left it here by mistake." Matthew began to feel frustrated. He looked at Mario with a stern gaze, as if to say, "Are you serious?" But he didn't want to cause trouble, at least not before the police arrived. His eyes scanned Mario once more and noticed a pair of lottery tickets peeking out from his shirt pocket, alongside a key with a keychain that looked exactly like the one he had once gifted to his sister. Mario, not realizing he had revealed too much, shrugged in an attempt to appear innocent. "Are you sure the signal is correct? This technology can sometimes fool people." Matthew, with his usual seriousness and focus, simply took a step back and nodded. "Well, you wouldn't mind if I called the police to check the signal, right?" Mario's face instantly changed. Hey, no need to make a big deal out of this. It's just a backpack." The situation grew increasingly bizarre. Matthew stood upright, eyeing Mario, like a judge about to deliver a verdict, while Mario tried to hide the anxiety creeping across his face. The police quickly arrived on the scene, to patrol cars parked right outside the shabby house. The flashing lights from the police cars made the already quiet neighborhood feel even more tense. A tall, middle-aged officer with a neatly trimmed mustache approached Matthew. "You're the one who reported the theft, right?" he asked in a deep, confident voice. Matthew nodded, holding up his phone to show how the AirTag signal had led them to this house. The officer, whose name tag read SGT, Rodriguez, looked over the screen and quickly exchanged words with his younger, more eager partner, Officer Kelly. "All right, we'll take it from here," SGT, Rodriguez said, signaling for Kelly to check around. Soon, Kelly's gaze stopped at a trash can in front of the house. It was a large plastic bin, the lid slightly ajar, revealing a corner of a brown leather bag sticking out. "This trash can looks interesting," Kelly chuckled lightly, donning rubber gloves as he carefully lifted the lid. Immediately, an unbelievable sight appeared. Various handbags, wallets, and even a stack of credit cards thrown haphazardly inside. SGT, Rodriguez approached, picked up a bag, and raised an eyebrow. "This trash can really is a treasure chest," he quipped, his tone sarcastic. The other officers couldn't help but smile, though they understood the situation was more serious than it seemed. As they continued their search, a sound echoed from a distance. A small red car came speeding down the street, screeching to a halt right in front of the house. A woman stepped out of the car, her long black hair flowing and her eyes filled with fiery anger. She wore a dark leather jacket and knee-high boots, looking like a warrior about to enter battle. "What the hell are you doing?" she yelled, marching straight toward the officers without hesitation. "How dare you go through my brother's trash without a warrant?" SGT, Rodriguez, unfazed, replied calmly but sharply, "Ma'am, this trash can is on the street, in a public area. By law, we have the right to inspect anything that is no longer in a private space." The woman, later identified as Mario's sister, didn't accept this explanation. "This is an invasion of privacy. You have no right to do this. This is discrimination." Meanwhile, Officer Kelly, still holding a credit card he had found, glanced at Rodriguez and smirked. "Ma'am, I'm afraid this trash can speaks louder than the person in your house," he teased, but his words didn't seem to ease the woman's anger. The atmosphere became tense as the woman stepped closer, pointing directly at Kelly. "I want to call my lawyer right now," she shouted, her voice echoing across the street. Matthew stood silently to the side, watching the scene unfold. He felt both awkward and amused. While he was just trying to get his beloved backpack back, it seemed everything was turning into an impromptu drama on the streets of Wausau. After searching the area around the house and finding items in the trash can, the police began to feel an unmistakable sense of something being off. The air inside the house grew heavy as a strong smell of marijuana began to waft through the air, prompting the team to investigate further. "All right, I'm not liking this smell," SGT, Rodriguez said, his face contorting in disgust. At the same time, Officer Kelly glanced toward the bathroom door. Something didn't seem right. He slowly approached it, still holding a plastic bag containing the items found in the trash. "Please don't tell me it's the bathroom," Kelly murmured, but no one responded. Although the police had sufficient grounds to investigate, an uneasy feeling still hung in the air. When the bathroom door opened, a thin wisp of smoke escaped from the confined space. The officers took a deep breath and immediately realized this wasn't the place they wanted to search. But as they stepped inside, they saw something no one expected: Matthew's black backpack, neatly placed in the corner of the bathroom. There was nothing to stop them, no sign of resistance. The officers couldn't hide their surprise. "Looks like the Apple AirTag wasn't lying," Officer Jackson, a young officer, said proudly. smiling as he bent down to pick up the backpack. His humorous tone light and the tense atmosphere, but the frightening reality quickly caught their attention. SGT Rodriguez surveyed the bathroom, which contained only a foggy mirror and a few hastily discarded items, but no sign of the homeowner. "This isn't just a theft, we might be looking at a drug operation here," he said, deep in thought. Matthew stood frozen, but he felt an overwhelming sense of relief. His backpack had been found, but now another layer of concern began to weigh on him. "I don't know what they're doing in there," he muttered, his mind in chaos, unable to focus on anything else. With the backpack in hand, Officer Jackson looked at SGT Rodriguez. "Looks like we're going to need a more thorough search," he said, then turned to Matthew, asking more questions about the documents in the backpack. The story of the lost backpack had now evolved into a much larger investigation. Meanwhile, outside the house, the atmosphere grew silent as everyone waited for the next decision. The police weren't rushing, but it was clear they had uncovered much more than just a lost item. It was a much bigger story in the making. As the backpack was brought out from the bathroom, the situation immediately became tense. Mario and his family had lost all composure. He, still handcuffed, shouted with furious anger, "You think you're so clever? I already told you, that backpack crawled into my bathroom by itself." "I don't know anything about it," Mario shouted, his face turning red with anger. His voice was not only filled with worrying but also a hint of confusion, as if he were trying to convince himself that everything was innocent. One of the officers turned around, staring at Mario without any sympathy. "That sounds more like a story from a comedy movie than the truth, buddy," he responded coldly, laced with disdain. Not only Mario, but his older sister, a tough-looking middle-aged woman with blonde hair and a strong smell of cigarette smoke, immediately stormed forward. "You're violating our privacy," she yelled, "and I'll take this all the way to the White House. You have no right to go through our trash without a search warrant." She waved her hand as if that simple gesture could resolve everything, only to make the situation more tense. The officers remained silent, yet none of them were willing to back down. SGT Rodriguez, standing closest to her, sighed. "You can sue wherever you want," he said, his voice calm but weary. "But I think what matters is whether you had evidence for that lawsuit." Matthew stood off to the side, no longer feeling victorious. In fact, he felt a bit sorry for Mario and his family, but couldn't deny the absurdity in their words, which only added to the drama. He slowly stepped forward, speaking, though his voice was no longer as firm as before. "Don't you understand? The police can't do this without a clear reason. They're just doing their job," Matthew said, trying to control the exhaustion in his tone. But he realized there was nothing more he could do except watch as things had spiraled out of his control. As Mario and his sister continued to protest, some of the neighbors, a few of whom had been secretly watching from behind the fence, couldn't help but laugh at the absurdity of the situation. One elderly woman, who was usually quiet and reserved, finally spoke up. "If I were you, I'd leave that backpack right where it is. It's not like it crawled in there by itself." However, this humor only made Mario and his family even angrier. Mario continued to scream, not allowing anyone to interrupt. "You won't stop, will you? This is my house, my rights." His voice sounded more anxious with his hands still cuffed, but his stubbornness couldn't be suppressed. Meanwhile, SGT Rodriguez quietly observed his colleagues, signaling them to continue gathering information. "Let them talk, but don't let them make this situation worse," he murmured. His words weren't meant to justify anything, but rather an acknowledgement that, despite Mario and his family's strong objections, they couldn't escape responsibility under the law. After Mario was charged with possession of stolen goods, things seemed to be coming to a close. However, his story didn't stop there. When summoned to court, Mario and his sister maintained their defiant attitude and refused to accept the truth. As soon as they entered the courtroom, the tension was palpable. Mario, now in an orange jumpsuit, entered with a look as if preparing for a battle. His sister, always clutching a pink handbag, continued to blow the situation out of proportion like a defender of their rights. Both of them seemed completely baffled as to why they were being charged. "I told you, that backpack crawled into my bathroom. How could I know where it was?" Mario muttered, his eyes still flashing with anger. Mario's sister was equally determined. "Our trash can. You went through it without a warrant, without any right. Even the trash can deserves respect, she yelled, as though presenting a rock-solid argument. The courtroom fell silent before whispers started to spread. Those present in the trial couldn't contain their surprise and discomfort. Some giggled, while others shrugged as if they had seen this kind of drama before. The judge, a middle-aged man with a graying beard, couldn't help but raise an eyebrow at Mario's sister's statement. He sighed and placed his finger on his temple, as if trying to comprehend the situation. So your trash can is a priceless item. The judge's deep voice broke the silence, his face expressionless. We'll certainly respect the rights of your trash can, but it seems the items inside it are worth far more than a few old wallets. So your trash can is a priceless item. The judge's deep voice broke the silence, his face expressionless. We'll certainly respect the rights of your trash can, but it seems the items inside it are worth far more than a few old wallets. The courtroom, from the prosecutor to the witnesses, couldn't hold back their laughter. Some even burst into full laughter, while others tried to maintain their composure to avoid disrupting the order. Even a young lawyer sitting nearby couldn't keep a straight face, muttering, "Maybe I need to study the rights of trash cans." Mario and his sister, however, did not change their attitude. They continued to insist on their rights, but all their arguments only led to further absurdity. Mario even tried to convince the court that the police had violated the right to their trash can, and that it was an unforgivable invasion. Mario's sister kept declaring, "Yes, I'll sue all the way to the White House. You can't treat us like this." The judge couldn't contain himself anymore, shaking his head slightly before delivering his decision. "You can continue your battle wherever you want, but here, we will judge based on the evidence at hand. As for your trash can, I think we've heard enough." When the verdict was delivered, Mario was convicted of possessing stolen goods and sentenced to a short prison term. Meanwhile, his sister, though not convicted, still stood there with a face full of resentment, continuing to complain about the disrespect shown to their trash can. Those who witnessed the case left the courtroom laughing and shaking their heads in admiration, as if they had just watched a short comedy right inside the courthouse. At the end of the trial, Mario and his family, despite being punished, still couldn't see the lesson in their actions. They continued to insist that their privacy rights had been violated, even humorously calling for lawsuits. However, from this story, we can learn an important lesson about respecting ownership and legal regulations. No matter the circumstances, trying to escape the truth and blame others only leads to absurdity and irresponsibility. Moreover, arrogance and stubbornness won't solve the problem, but instead make everything more complicated. Sometimes, honesty and cooperation are the keys to avoiding situations as ridiculous as the one in this story.